Buying a cheap battery seems more cost-effective up front, but they often come with disadvantages that heavily outweigh those savings in the long run. So you might be wondering, how long can these batteries last? What makes them so cheap? And are there better alternatives? Welcome back to the lab where our opinions cannot be bought. We've been hands-on with a lot of cheap batteries, and we've done a lot of reviews over on the Solar Lab, and one thing they all have in common and why we don't really like them is they don't perform well at all. And the point of this video is that cheap does mean more expensive. And the reason they're more expensive is because they have a lot of underlying problems that you really can't look past, and one big problem that can ruin your whole setup. That being said, we will leave links to some of these products in case for some reason you're interested, and we will leave links to batteries that we actually recommend. And if this is all too much for you, we did create a quiz that you can go and take. It only takes like 60 seconds. It will match you up with a solar company that is going to help you through your process, whether you're going to go DIY or you want a full-on install. So with that being said, let's jump right into why we wouldn't recommend a cheap battery. The first thing is the battery chemistry. So this should be self-explanatory, but as time goes on, scientists find out different chemistries that make batteries last longer. Right now, all batteries are using LiFePO4 technology, when before they used to use lithium ion and lead acid. LiFePO4 usually lasts like 3,500 plus cycles, whereas lead acid and lithium ion last like 500 to 1,500 cycles. Basically what that means for you is your lead acid or lithium ion battery will last like 2 to 4 years, whereas your LiFePO4 battery will last like 10 plus years. That's the difference between buying 3 different batteries in a 10-year span or just having the same one. One thing to note though is that even though they are using LiFePO4 chemistry, the cheap batteries are probably going to be using different cells. The grade of the cell in the cheaper battery is going to be worse. So even though they're the same on paper, these cheap LiFePO4s aren't going to last as long as a premium LiFePO4 battery just because of science. Our second reason is warranty problems. The last thing you want is a problem, but when you have a cheap battery using outdated technology, you're more likely to have a problem. So when you're faced with these challenges, like having a bad BMS, poor cell matching, inaccurate state of charge readings, bad communication with your inverter, the worst thing, if any of those problems do happen, is who are you gonna call? Like 99% of the time, you're gonna get something like this.
So as of now, you have to like go through email and create a ticket. There's no actual, an actual technical support available?
No, it's not like that.
Most of the time, you're gonna have a big communication barrier, or you won't get any response at all, which probably will happen. This can be frustrating and discouraging because usually when you find out you have a problem is right when you try to go and use your system. And you don't have time to hop on phone calls or email back and forth to someone who might not even respond to you. The thing with the premium brands is when you have a question, they're going to answer it very quickly. The third problem is your communication with an inverter. As I mentioned before, communication is super important when you want to have a healthy and working setup. The problem is that most cheap batteries only work with specific inverters, and some of them don't even list the inverters they work with at all. Even the inverters that they do work with are very limited. Like, they're not working with the best brands because they're cheaper batteries. In my opinion, you don't want to put your future self at a disadvantage by buying a cheap battery now, because in the future, when you go to upgrade your system, you're gonna have to rebuy those batteries all over again. Cheap batteries often claim that they're compatible, they use outdated protocols, have buggy firmware, they only partially communicate with your inverter or other batteries, which means they might not even show the right battery percentage, they'll throw random alarms, or in the worst case, not even see the battery at all. And that takes us to our fourth point of UL listings not being correct, or these batteries not even being properly tested. Putting something that is not UL listed or not CSA approved or just not properly tested at all is actually really illegal. And who even cares if it's illegal, because it's also really dangerous. Especially in the USA or Canada, where you 100% won't be able to get insurance if you have one of these in your house. One thing to note is sometimes your inverter and your battery will be UL listed individually by themselves, but when you pair them together, they're not going to be. In my opinion, that's pretty stupid because for the consumer, if you buy a UL listed battery and a UL listed inverter, you kind of want it all to work together. But the problem is one UL listing has to go together with the other. And if you don't know what a UL listing is, we're going to make a video on that, so stay tuned. Even though the inverter and the battery are both UL listed, they might not pass the safety inspection when they are working together. It's kind of like having a car run on gasoline and you try to put diesel in it. Even though diesel is a fuel, it's still not going to work as intended, or at all. And lastly, we have the cost to install. When people all of a sudden get interested in backup power, they tend to move very quickly. And they see that installs by professionals can be very expensive upfront costs, so they try to go the DIY route and try to do it themselves. That's not a problem if you do know what you're doing, but for the majority of people, that's really not the case. People run into a whole bunch of issues on the DIY route, buying the wrong equipment and tools that will ultimately end up costing them thousands. That can be things like buying the wrong breakers, undersized wire, cheap disconnects, incorrect battery cables, or just calculating the wrong solar charger voltages. And then, this is where the money comes in, they have to rebuy all the right parts later. And another thing I want you to keep in mind is just because you are going the DIY route and you buy all of those products, you need to then buy all of the tools to get the job done. Tools like a multimeter, wire strippers, conduit tools, network and firmware cables. A beginner can easily waste like $500 to $3,500 buying tools and correcting their mistakes. On the flip side of all of that, people can also waste a lot of money by overestimating how much power they need, having a 30 kilowatt setup when they only need to run a cabin that uses maximum 5 kilowatt hours. And to wrap this point up, time is money. When you spend so much time researching, troubleshooting problems, learning battery protocols, and spending so much time making sure everything works together, so you're using a valuable resource, your time, just trying to figure out what works together. But like my grandpa always says, buy once, cry once. He wants to buy the best things and get it done properly because it will end up working for a really long time. For someone like my grandpa who's interested in having a solar backup but doesn't want to get into the weeds of doing it all himself, we created a quiz that can help him and you connect with solar companies that can help you. You can just go onto our website, or click the link down in the description, take a 60-second quiz if you want to go the DIY route of a solar company that's going to help you, like Signature Solar, or an installer in your area that can literally do everything for you. And one thing that matters to us is we personally recommend these guys because we trust them. We'll also leave links to batteries we would recommend that you use down in the description. But that's all we have for you today. Hopefully you learned something. Peace out and stay charged.